When we look at the 5 key issues, as we see it, and these are not the only issues, but these are what we see as big overriding issues, how to plan in the face of ongoing uncertainty. Also, too much chasing too few. What, where, and when, and how to implement new technology. Also talking about wanting to make things faster. Speed is a key word, and yet we also have to make things better. We have to make things more satisfying for people. And at the same time, we also want to hit goals for sustainability. Everything sounds good when you're sitting around the conference table in the office, and then when you actually go to execute on it, not so easy. So I think we can all agree that today, the only thing that seems certain is uncertainty. Sourcing markets keep changing, tariffs, political unrest, it's always something. Change also seems a lot less linear. It lacks direction. I think it's driving everybody crazy. It's almost better if things are bad because you know they're bad. It's like, well, they're bad, but we know that, and we have a base that we can work from. But when everything keeps shifting all the time, it becomes very difficult to plan. People tend to keep holding back. Then it's a rush to get it done. People don't want to make change, even though sometimes the best thing you can do when things are uncertain is change, but it makes people nervous about change. Sourcing has become very fragmented. And speed is a survival strategy, because when you're unable to plan, you need to be able to execute on things and be very agile. So we also seen that consumer markets appear to have stalled. I mean, at the beginning of last year, it seemed like, wow, we were on an upward trend. We were getting this feedback that everything was growing, right? US market was growing, Europe was starting to do well, China domestic was great. And then we noticed last summer, sort of in the middle of the summer, things weren't going so well. We started to feel these vibes from the market, nothing tangible. And by Q4, wow, it was just, not good. We're meeting with people. I think most of you have had us either come to your office or chase you to come to your office. And so the information that we get when we do our market intelligence is as firsthand as we possibly can get. Talk to people and really get not only hearing, but feeling. Sometimes you hear things, sometimes you sense things. As well as looking at data, and as well as, of course, our consumer lab, which is getting consumer feedback, and then pulling it all together and trying to get a sense of where things are going. So, we could just sense that something wasn't right. People went from very enthusiastic to, wow, sort of crawled under a rock. No one wants to talk to you, no one wants to get back to you, even people you know really well, not good. And I think, you're really facing in these consumer markets the uncertainty. Even if your own market isn't that bad or your own life isn't that bad, you've got a solid job, everything's good. When you're constantly hearing, what we refer to as fear-based media and fear-based marketing. So when that's constantly being fed at consumers, even when everything in their life is pretty good, they feel nervous. You have a lot of political turmoil in the news. Flat wage growth for mid-tier employees. We often talk just about unemployment, and we're usually looking at, sort of the lower wage earners. But, if you look at mid-tier, wages have been pretty flat for a long time. In the U.S. market, millennials are saddled with just ridiculous student debt. And I think that also, as we've seen, consumers today are much more mindful shoppers. A lot of that has come from e-commerce, where you have the luxury, right, to sit in your home and surf the internet and research a product before you buy it. Today, we have a very slow shopper. Another thing we're seeing, too much chasing too few. And for those of you who subscribe to our current situation in sourcing advisory, you'll know that we've put that forward in our most recent report. We've seen an expanding supply chain, right, facing a fairly stagnant consumer market. Yet when we're talking to mills and factories who are in China, China-based, the major companies there are telling me about how much capacity they're adding that's coming online this year. We're seeing indie brands, as you know, whether it's just some guy working out of his mother's laundry room or whether it's a fairly well-funded indie brand. Worldwide, we're seeing tons of new brands coming onto the market. So all of this is just creating a tremendous amount of supply hitting markets that are not growing as fast. We have too much product chasing too few buyers, whether it be buyers, brands and retailers, or whether it be consumers. So under these circumstances, lower prices is not going to be enough of a competitive advantage. there's so much available at such competitive prices now that if that's the only strategy, it's going to be a tough one. We all complained about fast fashion. And then along came the dollar stores. That would be garments that sell for $1. I think in the UK they call them pound stores. So moving on. Okay, speed, going faster. Remember the old days when big volume orders defined our industry? So today, we're actually getting to the point where we're almost seeing on-demand production. We're seeing production that's now orders are smaller and more customized. Lead times have to be as fast as possible. Nobody wants to carry inventory. We're seeing, new technology, of course, is supporting that. So digital printing growing very fast, 3D printing in order to cut out sampling. And then also speed coming through at the consumer level, but more on the product delivery side of things, more or less on e-commerce. And yet at the same time, we need to slow things down. Designers are feeling more and more stressed. They're having to create more collections faster. I think any of us who are working at an executive level feel like there's just never time. Wouldn't it be nice if you could complete a project and just exhale and just be able to look at it and think about what you've done and feel satisfaction if it went well, or be able to review it without having, to just do it and get it done and jump on to the next thing. So I think everybody's feeling that. At the consumer level, on the one hand, we want things to be fast. E-commerce is something where you can see it online and get it the next day. But at the same time, people want that retail environment. People want a relaxing environment. We're seeing that speed is starting to kill creativity. While faster is certainly more productive, it's less satisfying. We're finding that a lot of people are saying they don't find their work satisfying, and I think part of it is that we're just rushing to get so much of it done. Technology. What's the right technology for our business? And then understanding when we should start to do it. Because with technology changing all the time, you don't want to be the one who's invested in a big system only to find out that, there's something new that's come on that's better, and now what I have is the old way to do it. The other thing is, in an industry that's as fast-paced as ours, change management is really tough. When do you ever have downtime to sit there and try to say, okay, we'll implement something new and train everybody up? I think also another thing we're seeing is an over-reliance in some cases on technology, where people feel that the solution is just, we'll buy the next new technology, without realizing that it's a tool, but it's not a differentiator. Any technology that comes out is essentially available to everyone. So success, as we see it, is going to come from balancing the right tech with the right talent. So technology is a tool, it's not a solution. It's a good tool, but it's still a tool. And it's only as good as the person who's controlling it. It will optimize our operations, but it's talent that's going to give us that huge competitive advantage. So while people are oftentimes the problem, and I think any of us who manage people realize that some days, right, you're thinking to yourself, if only we could do this without all these people. But at the same time, they're the solution. People are always the ones who are the solution, who come up with that innovative idea, or who somehow manage to solve the problem. So I think that while we want to implement technology, we can't look at it as a way to see how do we wipe out as many people as we can. We want to use it as a way to enhance the performance of people. Finally, we're going to talk about sustainability. I think everybody wants to be more sustainable, or at least we feel we have to. And yet at the same time, it's very frustrating. Every solution seems to be met with a new obstacle. It's become very complex. We're looking for solutions to be more sustainable, and we also have to produce products that consumers like. So I think that one of the things that we're watching is biodegradable materials. They're expensive right now, but I think that as they become more available and more people produce it, that'll drive the price down. So where do we go from here? In order to meet today's challenges, we feel that we have to combine technology with talent. We need to be agile so that we can seize market opportunities. We want to speed up the supply chain so that we can be more responsive. And yet we need to create that time and space so that people can be more creative and get more satisfaction out of their work. And at the same time, we're looking for ways to more practical ways to achieve sustainable products.